He was the voice of the century, a man who held the world in a tuxedo-clad embrace. But beneath the fedora and the swagger lay a soul scarred by loneliness and a temper as volatile as a loaded gun. Frank Sinatra was more than just a singer. He was a walking contradiction of immense power and fragile vulnerability. From the mean streets of Hoboken to the glittering lights of Las Vegas, this is the story of a man who conquered the world, but could never quite conquer his own demons. His entry into the world was a battle for survival. Born blue and breathless in a cold Hoboken kitchen, he was left for dead on the counter until his grandmother plunged him into ice water. The forceps used to pull him out left permanent scars on his face and shattered his eardrum, marking him for life. He was the only child of Dolly Sinatra, a force of nature who loved him fiercely but ruled with an iron fist. Her ambition fueled him, but her violence taught him fear. Growing up, loneliness was his constant companion. With Dolly out navigating local politics, Frank wandered the streets. A solitary boy in pink clothes his mother dressed him in, longing for a daughter. He found solace in music, inspired by Bing Crosby to declare, "I'm going to do that." But the road was rough. He was expelled for rowdiness, sang for tips in the dusty corners of the rusty cabin, and even spent time in jail on a seduction charge, an early sign of his chaotic love life. His breakthrough came with the Harry James Orchestra, but it was the discipline of Tommy Dorsey that forged the legend. Watching Dorsey play trombone, Frank learned to breathe in the middle of notes, turning his voice into a seamless instrument. He wasn't just singing, he was seducing. When he went solo, the Bobby Soxers phenomenon exploded. Teenage girls fainted and screamed, blocking traffic in Times Square. He was the first modern teen idol, a skinny kid with a golden voice. Yet fame brought scrutiny. His perforated eardrum kept him out of W2, earning him the unfair label of draft dodger. While he fought racism, standing up for friends like Sammy Davis Jr., the FBI opened a file on him, suspecting communist sympathies. He left Dorsey, rumor has it, with the help of the mob, a story immortalized in The Godfather. But the real crash was coming. By the early 50s, his voice cracked on stage in New York. The applause stopped. He was done. The press, once his ally, now tore him apart, calling him a washed-up has-been. In this abyss, he met Ava Gardner. She was his equal in passion and destruction, the love of his life and his greatest catastrophe. Their relationship was a violent storm of jealousy and obsession. When she aborted his child for her career, it broke him. He slashed his wrists. He turned on the gas. He was a man on the edge of oblivion, wandering streets where no one recognized the former idol. Desperate, he begged for the role of Maggio in From Here to Eternity. He channeled his own pain into the character, and Hollywood took notice. The Oscar win was his resurrection. He returned not as the boy singer, but as the sophisticated chairman of the board. Partnering with Nelson Riddle, he released albums like In the Wee Small Hours, turning his depression into art. He wore his trench coat and fedora like armor, singing for every lonely soul in the dark. Las Vegas became his kingdom. At the Sands, he led the Rat Pack, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., in a display of cool that defined an era. But behind the laughter, he was brokering power. He became the bridge between the mob and John F. Kennedy, using his influence to help JFK reach the White House. He even built a helipad for the president at his home. But when JFK snubbed him due to his Mafia ties, Frank's rage was nuclear. He took a sledgehammer to the helipad himself. The shadows of the underworld always loomed. He lost his casino license at the Cal Neva Lodge because of mob boss Sam Giancana. Then, in 1963, his worst nightmare unfolded. His son, Frank Jr., was kidnapped. During the ordeal, Frank ran out of coins at a payphone, a trauma that haunted him forever. Until the day he died, he carried 10 dimes in his pocket, a superstitious safeguard against being cut off from those he loved. He was powerful, yet terrifyingly helpless. Trying to regain control, he founded Reprise Records to be his own master. But his personal life remained chaotic. He married the young Mafia, a union doomed by the generation gap. He served her divorce papers on the set of Rosemary's Baby in front of the cast, a cruel display of his wounded pride. Professionally, he recorded My Way, a song he hated for its arrogance, yet it became his anthem, a defiant declaration of a life lived on his own stubborn terms. He tried to retire in 1971, but the silence was deafening. He returned, his voice rougher but richer, filling stadiums with New York, New York. He made peace with the establishment, visiting the Reagan White House, yet he struggled with the changing times. He initially despised rock and roll, insulting Elvis and the Beatles, only to later duet with Elvis in a bid for relevance. He was a king trying to hold on to a crown that was slowly slipping away. The Duets album was a final commercial triumph, pairing him with stars like Bono, but the end was near. In 1994, he collapsed on stage. The sharp mind began to fade into the fog of dementia. He forgot lyrics, he forgot faces. The famous blue eyes, once electric with intensity, grew dull. It was a slow, painful fade for a man who had always lived in vibrant color. In his final moments, his last words were a whispered confession. "I'm losing it." Frank Sinatra was a man of extreme generosity, gifting friends gold lighters and cars, but he demanded absolute loyalty in return. Betray him, and you were dead to him. He was a romantic who serenaded women, yet a man's man who could be cold and dismissive. He drank Jack Daniels like water, claiming alcohol is man's enemy, but the Bible says, love your enemy. He was a style icon who obsessed over shined shoes, hiding the chaos within. His temper was legendary. He could flip tables in a rage, yet he was terrified of being alone in the dark. He partied until dawn, not for fun, but to avoid the silence of an empty bedroom. The black dog of depression was always scratching at his door. He surrounded himself with people, noise, and music to drown out the quiet. He was the most famous man on earth, yet perhaps the loneliest, seeking a love that could heal the scars of his childhood. When he died in 1998, the Empire State Building turned blue, marking the end of an era. He left behind a legacy that transcended music. He was the soundtrack to First Kisses and Last Call, the voice of heartbreak and triumph. The Mafia rumors, the fights, the scandals, they all faded, leaving only the music. He was the kid from Hoboken who wanted to be big, and he became the biggest of them all, doing it his way until the very end. Frank Sinatra's life was a high-wire act between glory and tragedy. He was a hero and a villain, a lover and a fighter. His story is a testament to resilience, a reminder that even the brightest stars cast the longest shadows. He gave the world his voice, but he paid for it with his peace of mind. In the end, the man who had everything realized that the applause eventually stops, and you are left alone with the silence you spent a lifetime running from.